No, that's why you're a music student. Though often somewhat heavy-freighted, the coach rolls at an easy pace. And time, the coachman, grizzly pated, but smart, alert, is in his place. We board it lightly in the morning, and on our way at once proceed. Repose and slothful, comfort scorning, we shout, "Hey there! Get out! Full speed!" Noon finds us done with reckless daring and shaken up. Now cares the rule. Down hills, through gullies roughly faring, we sulk and cry, "Hey, easy fool!" The coach rolls on, no pitfalls dodging. At dusk, no pains more wanted groan. We drowse, while to the night's dark lodging, old coachman time drives on, drives on. Marlowe enters a vacant room accompanied by a valet. There is nothing in the room except for 4 chairs and a clock atop a table, all in the style of the Second, Fifth Empire. Marlowe is shaking his head up and down slightly, as if in acknowledgment of some obscure fact known only by himself. He takes no note of his surroundings or of the valet waiting patiently behind him. Simply continues nodding his head up and down, up and down. After a moment, with an unresponsive Marlowe, the valet turns and moves to the open door, but stops himself before doing so. He removes his hand from the doorknob and turns slightly in the direction of Marlowe. Suddenly, the valet speaks, snapping Marlowe out of his daze.
Very well, sir. If you don't need me, I'll be off.
Satire. Marlowe cocks his head ever so slightly to the left at the voice behind him, giving an almost imperceptible nod in the response. The valet leaves. The door clicks quietly shut. Marlowe doesn't hear it. He walks to a chair in the back of the left corner of the room and collapses into it. The head shaking has stopped, his head now being supported by his left hand. His posture is defeated, yet filled with a broken understanding. He retreats deep into himself. An unknown amount of time passes, but the hands on the clock don't move. Eventually, voices can be heard from outside the door. Marlowe seemingly doesn't hear them. The door opens, revealing Valet and Kurtz. They walk in. Kurtz with his arm round the shoulders of Valet. Salesman-like, Kurtz speaks.
The power I possess could, at one utterance, from me, been unleashed onto the world. I had a following among the savages, who raised me to the level of a local deity.
He pauses here for emphasis.
And this is what I am to live in for eternity?
Pointing around the room. Valet steps back, irked by Kurtz.
Of your power in life, I have not a doubt that you speak the truth. However, it is my obligation to remind you, sir, that you are dead in hell, and the company we keep here is far greater than your local notoriety.
Kurtz recoils at the words of the valet, but says and does nothing.
If that is all you will be needing then, sir, I have a schedule to keep. The gentleman in the corner can assist you in your acclamation if he still wields the power of speech, which is doubtful.
Valet gives a slight bow and exits. Kurtz is now looking at Marlowe, as though willing him to snap from a revere and into recognition. It proves useless. He moves to sit down in the chair next to Marlowe, arms on both wrists and feet set wide, like a king of his throne. He looks around before nodding approvingly. Quietly, but with a defiant air.
So this is it? Hell?
Pause.
Forever?
Pause. He then turns and leans towards Marlowe, now giving no indication of them having previously met.
How long have you been here, son?
He waits, but no response is given.
Is this how it has to be? Solitude for an old dead man in hell?
Speaking more to himself at this point.
I myself was always a man of action.
He sits back.
I needed only my soul for direction. I need no man. I was shaped by no man.
with conviction,
and never will be.
whispering,
The men are not here. There are no men here.
taken aback.
What? What did you say? No.
With that, silence falls upon the duo. Kurt stays true to his word and paces around the room, picking up and putting down the defunct clock. To himself,
Blasted thing.
smacks it on the back and a few times.
Completely useless.
He sets it down again, but is interrupted by Marlowe before he can resume his pacing. Audibly this time,
What's the point?
Kurtz turns in minor shock, but before he can speak, the door opens. Valet and Grendel enter. Grendel's head is drooping, his depression palpable. Audibly this time,
These gentlemen are more than these gentlemen are more than capable of helping you acclimate. Sir,
Valet hesitates to call Grendel sir, knowing the effect it will have upon him. Grendel picks up on the meaning behind the valet's words and sinks dejectedly into an empty chair, head in hands, sobbing. Exit valet. Kurtz watches Grendel for a short amount of time, contemplating the best course of action, an hungry gleam in his eyes. His mouth twitches into a grotesque semblance of a smile before he speaks. Leaning forward, elbows on knees, voice filled with false sympathy.
Come now, son. What is the cause for this unmanly tears? How have you been wronged? By whom your dignity stolen?
Grendel stops sobbing, but does not yet look up to Kurtz. When he speaks, his voice is hard.
You.
He pauses, both shocked at his odyssey and struggling to articulate that which he truly felt.
You are both the cause of my tears and the robber of my dignity.
Kurtz is surprised but never flustered. He's intrigued by his role in the life of this unknown.
Pray tell.
Ha! Have I found a greater egotist than Beowulf? Impossible. And yet, have my eyes and ears conspired against my senses? Flatter yourself not with my words, human. By them, I simply meant that you are all the same to me. All is one and one is all. Is that not what you say? I digress. Now, you asked me a question, and I have yet to answer. How rude of me. Mother would be so disappointed. My tears, human, bear no relation to any emotion felt by man. I am an animal, you see, not a human being. Yet, I am begrudged even by that vague classification. Banish me even farther. I am a monster, a beast. My tears are my own. Anathema to humanity. And I will be damned not to shed them in memoriam of a life better left unlived. Think poorly of me if you will. I have no desire to stop you, to show you the error of your ways. In this, the epicenter of all nothingness, your opinion means naught.
Having said this, Grendel sits back slightly and takes what seems like his first breath since entering into the conversation with Kurtz. His posture dares Kurtz to contradict or mock him. Kurtz does neither. Instead, he claps. Grendel is wary, and with good reason. Kurtz shrugs nonchalantly in the face of Grendel's doubt, conceding his defeat, but quickly readjusts himself.
What did they call you in your other life?
Monster, beast, spawn of the devil. My mother called me Grendel.
Grendel.
Mulling this over,
Yes.
he takes his hand on the underside of his chair to position himself closer to Grendel.
And just what, Grendel, is the reason for this sabbatical? One does not, after all, simply waltz through the gates of hell.
Suddenly withdrawn.
I have killed, in cold blood, and with nothing but these bare hands. It was not premeditated. I know this much of my own character. But when they began the ridiculing and the taunting and the...
He pauses here, seemingly too overcome by emotion to continue. He gathers himself and proceeds.
I came to enjoy it. Not the act of murder itself, perhaps, but the retribution, the deliverance.
His attitude changes after these words, and he comes back to himself, almost, and is suddenly filled with remorse.
Regardless of the why, it was wrong. That must be why I'm here. I have taken that which was not mine to take.
Kurt scoffs at this display of weakness.
As have I, as have many, as will many.
He gives a careless shrug.
All men are meant to die, some at the hands of others. So be it. I will ask you again then, why are you here?
If not for what I have told you, then I do not know.
Come now. You must have an inkling of an idea, whether you wish to divulge it to myself or not. What was the manner of your death? Or rather, what were you engaged in at the time of your death? There lies the answer to my question.
Grendel contemplates this for a moment. He begins to speak, but the door bursts open before he can finish.
I was, you see, on a quest.
Interrupted by the entrance of Valet and Gatsby. Gatsby strides into the room, full of grace and arrogance, surveying his surroundings like he was appraising fine art, and found it lacking.
What, no toilet? I was expecting a suite.
Chuckling to himself,
That's good. So you haven't yet got over your, what do you call it, sense of human dignity? Excuse my smile.
satire. Gatsby takes this mockery in stride, feigning indignation. His hand flies to his chest in a quintessential gesture of the Victorian surprise.
Who, me, old chap? As a matter of fact, no. Lost it along the way, as it turned out.
Reflectively now,
Denial has never served me particularly well in the past, so I figure, why try it now?
Very well, sir. I will leave you to it then.
he jerks his head in the direction of the others.
They'll be able to answer any questions you may have regarding your stay.
Valet exits. Gatsby sinks into the last empty chair, opposite to Marlowe, and from the briefest of the moments, it becomes clear that he understands the severity of the situation. It is quickly replaced by the facade of wronged arrogance. He sits innocently in his chair. Kurt's eyes the newcomer before returning slowly to face Grendel.
You were saying, Grendel?
Breaks from staring/glaring at Gatsby, who he sees as similar to Beowulf and thus worthy of the utmost scorn.
Yes,
He returns his full attention to Kurtz.
I was on a quest to discover the meaning of existence and why mine was filled with such horrors.
Kurtz takes a pause before responding, a wicked, gleaming now in his eyes.
You have misjudged, poor Grendel. You see, horror has a face, and you must make a friend of horror. Horror and moral terror are your friends. If not, they are enemies to be feared.
Coppola.
You feared the horror rather than embodied it, and it destroyed you. Your weakness is what brought you here.
That cannot be. The answer to the horror shown me cannot be more of the same. A monster I may be called by the ignorance, but I hold myself true to certain moral standards.
Gatsby snorts at this, slouching haughtily.
So you walk among the righteous. Now, for some reason, I can't fathom, I find that difficult to believe.
He ponders maliciously, tapping his face in a gesture of remembrance. He suddenly leans forward and claps his hands together, smiling at his epiphany.
Ah, I remember. It's because you're in hell.
He leans back in his chair after this, disgust clear on his face.
Fool.
Derivatively. Angered at the intrusion into what he thought a private conversation.
And what would you know of righteous anything, you arrogant man? You epitomize that which I loathe most in humanity. Those who live under the pretense of honor and morality, but are nothing more than arrant knaves.
Gatsby is getting increasingly intense with the conversation, all his frustration at a life wasted coming forth.
I am principled, no lucid enough to know that there is no worth in your moral standards.
He spits the phrasing out.
The world in which man lives is a cutthroat place. Morals have nothing to do with anything. In fact, the only purpose they serve is in a police report. Under the heading,
Here he gestures to an imaginary police report.
accomplice to murder.
Grendel turns to Kurtz to get his opinion on the matter, but he finds turning from Gatsby to Kurtz.
Excuse me,
Kurtz.
Grendel and Gatsby turned sharply towards Marlowe, not realizing he was anything more than a vegetable. Kurtz is as unsurprised as ever, answering Grendel instead.
He's correct. I went by such a name at some point. But Grendel, this fellow, Mr.
Gatsby.
Yes, this Gatsby has quite the argument. There's only one true guiding force, and that is our most basic instincts, the ones that all inhibits of the earth share. Have. This is what is truly anathema to society. It is perceived as a darkness of the heart, of the soul, if you will. But it is unnatural to mold oneself to the norms put forth by a false society. Cast off the chains that bind you to what you've been told is acceptable, and you will find yourself untouchable.
Grendel remains quiet, absorbing what Kurtz just said. Gatsby intercedes.
And without purpose. I agree with your general statement wholeheartedly, in fact, but disagree with your conclusion and its anarchist implications. Take, as an example, myself. I have reason to be here, that I do not doubt, but first allow me to ask you one question. Have you ever loved? A love that began at the bottoms of your souls and continued to the brain so that it robbed you of your senses? A love so abundant it created an aura around you so that you could hardly see that which was standing so clearly to others directly in front of you? Well, have you?
A moment passes.
When I was a child, I truly loved. Unthinking love, as calm and as deep as the North Sea. But I have lived, and now I do not sleep.
Gardner.
Why do you ask?
Allow me to explain. I have felt that love. I am a testament to the power such love holds over a person. My love, however, was unearned and unrequited. She did not love me back with the same devotion and intensity I was willing to show her. I did not realize this until I was floating, face down, in my pool, dying, shot through.
He pauses to collect himself.
You may wonder as to the purpose behind this tangent, and with good reason. But I remember that when I walked in, you said you died questioning the meaning of life. Your death, Grendel, served but to spread along the natural course of action. There is no standard meaning to life. We are meant to live day to day as a product of our environment. We are not meant to question that which has no answer. Living is a verb, is an action. It is something we do without thought. I agree with Kurtz only insofar as life truly begins to complicate itself when we start to live for reasons other than our own. This I learned in death.
Grendel nods his head, sifting through what Gatsby has said. He finds it insightful, leading him to believe he may have misjudged him, but still leaves Grendel with questions.
I did things that I cringe to recall to the forefront of my memory, things that make me grateful I am here rather than anywhere else. The society in which I lived was, for a time, without strict moral restraints, and people unchained themselves, often in the worst possible ways. A Pandora's box was opened. If you pardon my use of the expression, and what good is morality in one man when faced with the amorality of another? Battle can be won, Grendel, but I am not as optimistic about the war.
I see the value to what you say, Gatsby, but I am still left with questions unanswered. Perhaps you can give me closure.
Perchance, yes.
Gatsby has said that there is no unifying, guiding principle in life, but I cannot believe such monstrous energy of grief can lead to nothing. Where is the point of reconciliation?
Kurtz thinks about it for a moment.
I do not profess, young Grendel, to have all the answers you seek, but like Gatsby, I will tell you that which life has taught me.
Pauses for effect.
I had journeyed in my past life into the heart of a long-considered, impenetrable land. It was there that I rediscovered myself, the blank slate I was born as, before society proceeded to inundate and pollute me with its warped sense of values. Here I shed the constraints of a society that did not want me, and unleashed what was within. There are those who would maintain, like Gatsby, that the heart of a man is a dark place, for it is. But if my time spent in the company of other men has taught me one thing, it would not hesitate to say that it is best to exploit this darkness before life exploits you.
Looking from Grendel to Gatsby to Marlowe.
I had immense plans. I was on the threshold of great things.
Conrad.
But alas, life was through with its use of me.
Silence falls among the three men speaking as they take in each other's stories. Then, seemingly out of the blue, Marlowe speaks.
No.
All eyes turn towards Marlowe. Kurtz flashes him a toothy and contemptuous smile.
Lo, he speaks.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Quite eloquently, in fact, once I make up my mind on a matter. Something that hadn't been a motif in my past life, unfortunately. That is why I am here. Nothing kills, ironically, quite like apathy. But to the discussion at hand, you discuss morals as if they still hold meaning when they do not. Or rather, they do, but not for us. No, not for us. Here in hell, morals have no jurisdiction. We didn't value them in life, so why have them in the afterlife, yes?
Here he pauses to collect his wandering thoughts.
Where you all err is in trying to label that which clearly does not want to be labeled. Namely, the meaning of your so-called existence. I say so-called because what is living really? It's relative. To whom? Why, the beholder, of course. Take this man sitting next to me, your philosopher, Kurtz. We knew each other in life. His was an impenetrable darkness. I looked at him as you peer down on a man who is lying at the bottom of a precipice where the sun never shines.
Conrad.
He is my personal torture in this inescapable drama. You, Grendel, most of all, look to him for guidance, but there is no man more unfit for the post, because it is uncertain when Kurtz last ascribed to any human emotion.
Oh, but I will wring your heart yet.
Conrad. Marlowe looks at Kurtz with the utmost scorn upon his face. Gatsby and Grendel sit, transfixed.
As Grendel once said, flatter yourself not with my words, they are meant to bite. There is much I should have said to you in the past and did not, and that is my cross to bear.
Can't repeat the past? Why, of course you can.
Fitzgerald. Short, hard laugh.
I did it every evening of my life, in my nightmares, and I do it now in this sleepless hell.
To Gatsby and sorrowful.
Yes, but that is where it is meant to stay, in memory only. We cannot change what has already passed. But never again will I allow you to sway another individual like you did the natives, like you did the Russian, like you did myself. You are a plague to the world, and in a world that needs no more than it has already got. And that is why you, Kurtz, are here, banished by necessity.
Sneering.
Is this it then? Is this your grand conclusion? Is this then the purpose of your life?
Marlowe thinks on this for a moment and then shrugs indifferently.
I am tired, quite honestly, of names. I do not know what this is. Redemption, perhaps. The name matters not, it is the action that speaks louder than words.
He leans forward toward Kurtz, hands on his knees.
But if that answer is not to your satisfaction, I have from now until eternity to prove it, not to you, whose soul is too far gone, but to myself and to those who care to listen.
He stares at Kurtz meaningfully before settling back in his chair.
Shall we get on with it then?
Satire.
I would just like to know that thank you everybody for doing this for me. I'm so sorry. I can get Miss Tyler to, if you have homeroom,
No, we're fine.
to